that we shot about 2 years ago of areas of Nazca that have never been seen before, where, let me go forward to that, where you see something like this. I mean, that's in the Nazca Plateau. This is a portion of a more gigantic geoglyph with 3 of such circles that come together in a big gigantic triangle. And if you look, for example, at this line right here, you have a zigzag line that goes underneath it. What does that mean? It means that the zigzag line is older than whatever came later, whatever is on top of it. And the question is, how was it done? And we've had some really amazing research findings that I'll delve into later about high levels of arsenic that have been found at the beginning and at the end of these runways. Or actually, let me rephrase this, of these things that look like runways, because they never were runways. Anyone who says, oh, so you're one of those guys that says that the Nazca lines are some ET airport. No, it was not an ET airport, because the logic is, there is no logic in the argument. Because, so what? Extraterrestrials are able to travel billions or millions of miles in interstellar space. And then before they land, they have to build landing strips. This is the stuff the debunkers are coming up with, not us. So no, Nazca was never an ET airport, and Erich von Däniken never wrote such rubbish either. So something is going on there, but it most certainly was not an airport for ETs nonetheless. And there's other really incredible research findings that I will go into later. For example, this here, if you look closely, the entire summit of this mountain is missing. It's as if the entire mountain, not as if, but this mountain was flattened. It was quarried off. And in the vicinity of 200 miles radius, there is not one single piece of rubble where this summit, this mountaintop has gone. And it's as if it was sheared off, transported somewhere, and no one knows what happened here. One of my favorite places, Pumapunku in the highlands of the Andes in Bolivia. This is right next to Lake Titicaca, the highest navigable lake in the world, next to a world-famous Inca site called Tiwanakus. Everyone and their grandmother goes there, but nobody walks only 150 yards over due east to Pumapunku, which is way more massive, more intriguing, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anything in the specialist press or specialist textbooks about Pumapunku. You maybe find 1 or 2 paragraphs, yet you find books upon books on Tiwanakus. Why? Because there are no answers to Pumapunku. It is this field of ruins of these gigantic stone blocks, which at one point all fit together. And it's as if a giant force, some cataclysm, ripped this whole thing apart. And you know, each of these stone slabs weighs in excess of 100 tons, and it's all built out of diorite. The only thing that's harder than diorite is a type of granite. The only thing that's harder than diorite is diamond. So the only way that this all could have been manufactured, cut, is with a diamond-tipped tool. And the intricacies of these cuts, this is nothing having to do with rituals or worship. This looks very technical, that to some of these female pieces there was a male counterpart, and some of the male pieces there was a female counterpart, and so on and so forth. And mind you, these stone plates right here, okay, mainstream archaeology maintains all this was transported with wooden rollers. I have not mentioned yet that we are at 14,000 feet, which is above the tree line. There never were any trees where they could have, logged it and taken the stems for wooden rollers. And 100 tons, guys, 100 tons, it would crush, the weight would crush those stone blocks because, just forget it. Oh yeah, wooden rollers and pulleys, right? Yes, okay. Heave ho, yes, of course. Oh, yes. And all this was worked with chicken bones and obsidian. Of course, chicken bones. I do it every day. Yes, I go out and I chip away on diamonds with chicken bones. Absolutely. Now, for whom should the Twilight Zone music play in the background? Is it really us or is it them? Seriously. To suggest that holes like this was done with obsidian or with chicken bones is preposterous. It is absolutely preposterous because another thing, by the way, has anyone gone to Pumapunku? Raise your hand if you have. Okay, one crazy one. Okay. Okay, all right. 2, 3. All right, now, anyone who has been there knows that if you touch the surfaces of these stones, it looks very weathered, but at the same time, you touch it and it feels like glass, which means all these stones have undergone a process of what's known as vitrification. Vitrification can only be achieved if stone like this is exposed to extreme heat. And it was done with chicken bones, like, really fast, friction or something. You can't wrap your mind around it. Then you have pieces like this that, are all identical. 12 pieces like that were found. This is what the back looks like. Great. And in the workshop, I have a computer animation of this, how these pieces interlock together, creating an impenetrable wall. So there is, engineering behind this. This isn't something that, this shape looks great. Chicken bone, chicken bone, chicken bone. No. There is planning behind this. By the way, the Aymara Indians, who still live up there today, when you ask them, who built this? They say, wasn't us. Well, because mainstream archaeology says it was the Aymara Indians. Now, everyone would have to agree that in order to build something like this, you need writing, because logistics and planning is a requirement for something like this. Now, the archaeologists are negating their own argument, because archaeologists also say that the Aymara had no writing. So they really want to have it both ways, and they can't. So when you ask the Aymara Indians today, well, who was it, or since when was this here? They will tell you this was here since before the beginning of time.